What's up, everybody? Nate here. So saving is kind of like the traditional financial pillar in the United States. If you're a good saver, then you are basically seen as being awesome with your money. And I was definitely taught that growing up because all I did was save. But what I found out was there was a lot of things I was missing about my financial education that is now hurting me in 2022. And saving has changed a lot over the years. Americans and people in general used to save by stuffing money in their mattress or under their bed. Then we switched to bank accounts, and now Americans are starting to save way more than they have in generations past. And that is a great thing, but I'm here to tell you that you need to stop saving right now. No, seriously, stop saving money. I don't save any money anymore. And today I want to talk about why exactly I stopped saving money, why you need to stop saving money right now, and how that is actually going to benefit you in the future and not hurt you, because saving money, especially saving too much, actually is a detriment to your finances. But before I get into all of that, do me a quick favor and hit smash or destroy that thumbs up button below and ring that notification bell too. Both of those two things are completely free, and they help to show me that you like this video and that you want to see even more just like it. Thank you so much for doing that. And now, even though saving has come a long way, people in the United States are still doing it wrong. Like, there are people that literally take most of their paycheck and save all of it. Literally, people have a savings account and they have a checking account, and that's basically where their finances end. Now, today I want to talk to you about the right way to save money and the way that most people do it, which is the wrong way. Let's go over the wrong way. So you're probably familiar with working at your job and then taking that paycheck and putting it into a savings account. Most people nowadays have direct deposit, which takes all of the money that they get and puts it right into their bank account. They think that they're saving money. They're protecting their money because, one, it's in the bank, nobody can get to it, and two, I'm able to now put all of this money away. But what people don't end up realizing is, as that money sits there, it is constantly losing value. The average saving rate for most banks is around 0.01%, so you are going to make literal pennies on the dollar for every hundred and thousands of dollars you put in the bank. Your money is just sitting there. It's not really doing anything for you, so it's hard to expect it to do something else for you later on down the road. Years ago, finance was a whole lot different. Like, my parents' generation saw saving rates that were around 10%. You could literally put your money in the bank and actually get a really solid return from that investment. But this is because of how banks have changed over the years. Just before the Great Depression in the United States, there was a massive run on banks. So Americans were going to their banks and taking all of their funds out all at once. This was a bit of a problem though, because banks didn't have that much money. Our country's financial system runs on something called a fractional reserve banking system. This means that every dollar that you put in the bank can technically do whatever they want with it. Most of the time, the bank goes out and lends this money. That's why they have so much money and why you can go to the bank to get a loan. People put their money in the bank, like a savings or checking account, and then the bank takes this money and loans it out. They also give it to the New York Stock Exchange so they can start gaining money from your money. So as people ran to the bank to go get their cash, well, the bank ran out and millions of Americans ended up having no money. Everything that they had was immediately wiped out. This is part of the reason why the Federal Reserve of the United States exists. So if there is a big run on the bank, we can create currency that is given to a lot of these banks. That's how the banks get their money in the first place. I should say that's how the banks get a lot of their money, because the other half is you actually putting your money in a bank account. So that happened, and millions of Americans suddenly had a huge distrust towards banks. They started to stuff their money in mattresses again. They started to put their money in a safe rather than put it in a bank account, because they didn't want to lose everything because the bank screwed them over before. This created a whole slew of problems for the bank, because now it was a lot harder for them to loan out money. Interest rates went up because they didn't have any money, so they had to be very careful with giving out loans, and everything was all screwed up. But the banks got a really creative idea. They decided, well, if we give people a reason to use our bank, then they'll want to continue banking with us. That's when they decided to raise their interest rates, so that way people could actually put their money in the bank and start to gain money from their money just sitting there. This went on for a long time until about the mid-90s to early 2000s. At this time, bank interest rates started to go way down because they realized everyone and their mother had a bank account. Parents were taking their kids into the bank and getting them bank accounts as soon as they could get a job. So everybody had a bank account in the United States, so there was no incentive for the bank to offer a low interest rate anymore. But that savings ideology still stuck for Gen X and millennials and Gen Z, and now we are saving every dollar we have because we think that that is what being wealthy is. This is a really bad financial habit though, and it can cost you if you do it far too long. Saving for me has been ingrained in my mind for a very long time. Like when I was a kid, I had like one of those little piggy banks that I would put every bit of my loose change in every single day. Mine actually wasn't like a piggy bank though, it was actually shaped like a Stanley Cup because I live in Michigan and hockey is super huge here. We're basically Canada over here in Michigan. So every time that thing got full, I would take it to the bank and then deposit it into a bank account that my parents had opened on my behalf. So then by the time that I was 16 and 17 and got control of my bank account, I would have a little bit of money in there to start with. Now, when I was doing this when I was a kid from 5 to 15 years old, I thought I was putting a whole lot of money in there, but that couple $100 that I put in there immediately got drained as soon as I got control of the bank account. I mean, it was going towards gas and gifts and anything else I wanted. I was 16. It didn't last me very long, and a lot of Americans are figuring that out in 2022. There are so many people that have put thousands, tens of thousands, and even hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank in a traditional savings account, and now that money is getting drained. $100,000 looks like a lot today, but in 30, 40, and 50 years from now, it's going to be worth a whole lot less. This is because of something called inflation. Inflation means that the value of every dollar goes down over time because the United States federal government adds to our money supply. Our money supply grows, so more people have access to money, but as more people have access to it, they go out and spend. And when you have a lot of spending, inflation goes up because businesses have to produce more goods. I mean, that's what people are spending money on. They're buying things. So businesses take on additional costs. They have to hire more people. They have to build more factories, improve their supply lines, and they ultimately trickle those costs down to you. What that means is that the value of every dollar that you put in a savings account eventually decreases over time. So to give you a really rough estimate, a dollar today is only going to be worth around 93 cents in 2023 if inflation stays at around 7 to 8% like it is right now. Now that's not a lot, but think about it. That dollar is getting depleted over time, and inflation is usually around 1 to 3%. Multiply that by 30 and 40 years, and that dollar is now in the negatives. You need a whole lot more money to buy all of the same things, which would make a lot of sense if those things were massively improving, but a lot of the times they're not. Like a gallon of milk is always going to be a gallon of milk. It's just going to get more expensive because of supply and demand and because of inflation. This really clicked in my mind around a year and a half ago. At the beginning of 2021, my dad passed away, and at that time, I remember just looking at my mom's finances and trying to figure out with her how she was going to be able to afford to basically live. I ended up finding out at that time that she had a ton of money in savings. However, this money that she thought was a lot was going to be able to protect her for a long time actually wasn't all that much because everything was getting a lot more expensive. We ended up going back and forth trying to figure out a budget, and that was extremely difficult because we were trying to figure out money instead of trying to heal and grieve from this entire process. I kind of lost a lot of that because we were thinking thinking so much about money. And I know that I'm not the only American that has gone through this. There are a lot of people in 2022 going through the exact same thing. It might not be a loss of a family member or a parent or a sibling, but people are entering retirement and they're thinking that they have all of this money saved, but really that much money isn't going to get you very far in 2022. And like I said, this is the wrong way to save. Literally taking every amount that you get in a paycheck and then shoving it in a savings account. That is exactly what the bank wants. It makes the bank richer because if you get bigger paychecks, well, they love it. You put it in the bank account and now they get to loan out more money. They get to invest your money. And of course, if you go to the bank and grab your cash, well, you can absolutely do that. But that's not really going to help you either. You do need to keep your money in a bank. I totally agree with that ideology. Just not all of it. Not every penny that you earn needs to go into a bank account. So you're gonna wanna stop saving as much as you can because all you're doing is making the bank richer and making yourself a whole lot poorer. So then that begs the question, how exactly should you save in 2022? Well, saving in 2022 needs to be a deliberate task. You shouldn't just be saving for the sake of saving. You need to have an actual reason. So there are two major reasons why you need to save money this year. The first is for emergencies. There has been a lot of talk in the United States about a potential recession right around the corner, and a recession means a lot of different things. Possible layoffs, unemployment going up, budget cuts. People are going to have to pay a whole lot more for everything, even though they won't have as much money as they did before. And yeah, that all sucks. So because of that, there's going to be a whole lot less money circulating throughout our economy. So you need to have a plan. What if an emergency strikes? What if your car breaks down, or your roof caves in, or you have an emergency with your AC, or a family member has to go to the hospital? Well, you need to have money set aside in order to protect yourself because life is unpredictable. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. That means right now, if you have nothing or very little in a savings account, you need to do everything in your power to start saving between $2,000 and $3,000. Literally, you need to stop spending, you need to cancel those subscriptions, do everything you can in order to save that money. If you don't, you are one financial disaster away from a tragedy. Saving between $2,000 and $3,000 is going to protect you against most of life's big emergencies. Like I said, if you have a flat tire or you need to fix your AC. Obviously, that's not going to protect you against everything, but it's a really good start. Chances are, if you do still have to finance or put some things on credit beyond that, well, you're going to be glad that you have $3,000 to put towards it rather than everything on credit. The big thing here is you don't want to add to your debt because that is just more payments that you have to make later on down the road, and you already couldn't afford that emergency in the first place. And that's just if one thing happens. What if something else happens? What if 2 or 3 things happen? Nobody knows what's going to happen, so you need to be protected. So you need to save for an emergency. And if you decide that you need to save even more, well, that all comes down to your risk tolerance. After you've saved $2,000 to $3,000, well, that's your short-term savings. That's what's going to protect you if something happens right now. You then need to create a long-term savings fund. So if you're out of work, or if a family member that was providing for you suddenly loses their job or life, then you need to have the finances to prepare yourself. During those times, there's going to be a lot of other things to worry about. And what you don't want to worry about is having the money to pay your bills. So now you need to add to that $2,000 to $3,000. Calculate all of the bills and all of the debt that you have to pay every single month. We're not talking things that can be immediately deleted, like a cable bill or a subscription service. Those can stop right away, so don't count those in your monthly expenses. Count the things that you have to pay, like your credit card debt or a mortgage. Tally up all of those expenses, and whatever you get, multiply that by how long you want to be protected for. And again, this is going to come down to your risk tolerance. If you want to protect yourself for 3 or 4 months, then that is completely up to you. Some people choose to do 6 months, some people choose to do a year plus. It's really just going to come down to how long you want to save, but I wouldn't get too aggressive here. I wouldn't save for longer than 6 months myself. That is because you really want that money to start working for you. You want to start gaining more than you're losing because of inflation. So that is going to protect you. And then of course you need to create a budget beyond that. I've talked a lot about this in other videos, and I'll actually leave one in the description below so that way you can check it out and actually create a a full financial plan beyond just a financial base of savings. But the other reason that we save in the United States is for the things that we want. You don't want to have to put anything on credit. You don't want to have to take on new debt just because you need a new fridge. There's going to be things that you want in this life, and I want you to have everything that you want to get, but you have to be able to afford it. And if you have to continue to finance everything or put it on credit, then you can't afford it in the first place. That can create a debt cycle that eventually brings you down if you don't have strong finances. So if there's something that you want to be able to buy it in full. You don't want to be able to put it on credit, because putting things on credit at the end of the day is a luxury, and sometimes it's a luxury that people cannot afford. I mean, that small $30, $40, and $50 payment today might not look like a lot, but as you add to it, as you finance your sofa, as you finance your fridge, as you finance a new car, eventually it's going to be unaffordable, and you end up paying way more for that thing than you would have if you just paid for it in full. So this all comes down to patience. You have to be patient, and I know that's difficult in today's economy. Americans want to spend money right now. They don't want to have to wait, and we have systems from businesses and banks created to make you think that you can afford something and to cause you to overspend. Well, that could end up becoming a problem, so you save for the things that you want. Obviously, there's going to be some things that you have to finance in life. I'm talking about the really expensive things like shelter. If you want a house, then yeah, you need to be able to afford it, but you also can't exactly save hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're not going to be able to do that to buy a home. So you're going to have to finance some things. Just make sure it's really important to you and assess your needs and wants here. Obviously, you need a house, but you don't need a mega mansion. You need a car, but you don't need a luxury sports car. So you're just gonna have to figure out what is important to you and what you actually need and what you really want out of life. The things that you want, well, take the time, be patient, and save for them. The things that you need, well, you may have to finance them as long as you can afford them. And I know what you're probably thinking. Well, now that I am saving money for the things that I want and I have that emergency fund, what exactly do I do with the rest of my money? Can I just blow it on some Gucci? Next up, you want to take everything that you have and allocate it towards saving and investing. People want to retire. People want to do things in the future, and the only way to do that is to give your money a chance to grow. You can't do that in a savings account. You have to do that through investing. There are a lot of different ways to invest, like the stock market, cryptocurrency, commodities, real estate, you name it. But the goal here is that you're putting your money to work, and potentially it's gaining more value than what the current inflation rate is. The S&P 500, for instance, over its entire history has averaged around a 10% return for investors. That's not every single year, that's just the overall history. Inflation in 2022 is around 8.2%, so your money might not be gaining a lot, but it's still gaining more than if it was sitting in a savings account. Now, obviously, investing your money isn't a guarantee. There are risks to investing. You might not gain any money that you put in there. That is just a fact. But I know for a fact as well that if I put my money in a savings account, I'm definitely not going to see a return. Personally, I would rather have that chance than to definitely lose value every single year. So I mentioned before, I stopped saving money, and the reason being is because I have an emergency fund and I save only for the things that I want. Beyond that, I don't save money. My paychecks get split up between going towards investments and then going towards my checking account so I can actually spend. It probably makes my bank bad, but to be honest, I don't really care. And this is going to be more important than ever, as a recession could be around the corner in 2022. You have to have a good savings base in order to protect yourself. But inflation is raging, and you also want to grow your money so that way you have more of it in the future. More to buy the things that you want. More to better yourself and your community. More money to help yourself out and pay off all of your bills. That way you can focus on the things that are actually important in life, like the things you love and the people that you love too. And eventually, the more and more you do this, it'll become a reflex. It'll become a muscle that you strengthen every single month, and you won't have that urge to go out and spend immediately. You won't have that urge to force all of your money into a savings account anymore. It'll just be a natural thing that you do month over month. And honestly, your finances will become pretty predictable, and you know that you always have that protection, so you don't really have to ever think about your money anymore. And in 2022, I think that gives Americans the peace of mind that we really need right now. But now I want to hear from you on this issue. What do you think about saving in 2022? Do you think that Americans should be saving a whole lot more right now? Or do you think that investing and stopping your saving habits is actually going to benefit you more in the future than saving a lot today? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below before you go. But that is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to stay up to date with all of the top business and financial news from around the country, our team puts together a free daily newsletter, and you can subscribe to it by clicking the link in this corner right here. And if you want to stay up to date with me and everything else happening in the business and financial world, I'm putting out updates 7 days a week over here on this channel, and I've actually got another one ready for you right here, so be sure to check that out before you go. That is it for me, everybody. Be kind out there, and I'll see you all in the next one.